Electronisounds Audio, the YouTube channel for you.
Hey, what's happening, guys? It's Dean from Electronisounds. Stick around. Today, it's all about the kick drum. I've teamed up with another hybrid producer named Trovarsi. She makes really amazing sounding tracks. And today, we're going to be doing a bit of a Eurorack kick drum deep dive. Come on, let's have some fun. In this first example, I'm using the befako kickall module to generate the kick drum, but I'm using a few techniques to make it a little fatter. Check this out. The trigger source is coming from the Mazatron clock divider, where I'm taking a divided by 4 clock signal and using that to trigger the befako kickall module. But I'm also using that trigger signal to trigger an envelope from the WMD device's javelin envelope. And we're taking a split cable out from that envelope generator, and I'm running that into the shape and the decay CV inputs of the kickall module. Let me turn this back up and show you what that does to the sound when I remove these. It's kind of a lot, wimpier sound, but when I put the envelope into the decay and the envelope into the shape of this sound, we really get a much more robust kick drum. And I can adjust this by adjusting these controls over here on the envelope. Make it a tighter kick drum or a bigger sounding kick drum. We're taking the output of the befako kickall module, and I'm using another split cable here so that we can send a clean signal of the kick drum directly into my mixer, but also that we can send a signal of the kick drum into this carbon filter from WMD devices. So I've actually got 2 different sources here that are generating the kick drum sound. Let me turn this up a little bit and show you what I mean. Here we have just the filtered version, just a little bit of dirt and grit being added. I'm going to turn that off and turn on the clean version. It doesn't sound too bad on its own, but when we layer in the filtered kick drum on the top of this, we get a much fatter and more robust kick drum. I think this is a pretty good start for kick drum number 1. I'm going to pass it over to Trovarsi at this time. What have you got for us, Trovarsi?
Hey Dean, Trovarsi here. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I am very excited. As you can see, I'm in my studio and I made 3 kicks to share with everyone. So let's get into it. Okay, so here's my case. I have some various kicks patched here, but I'm going to start out with first a basic techno kick. And I'm going to use the BIA. It's a drum synthesizer module. It's fantastic. 6 oscillators, a noise oscillator, attack decay, and this morph is fantastic. It changes the wave shapes of all the oscillators, and we'll get back to that in just a moment. But basically, here's how it sounds. So it's a nice punchy sound. You can use these parameters to dial and shape at your will. Add attack to kind of give it a little percussive snap, almost like a snare on top of there. And the fun thing about the morph is you can get a little distortion in there. So how I'm triggering this is with the Pamela's New Workout. So you can see it pulsing right here. It's 4 to the floor. And I have right here the Ericson's dual effects on, and I'm just using the first channel here set to a reverb. So I'm using it on the send and return of this the WMD performance mixer. So sometimes I like to just add a little reverb. I'm also sending a trigger out from the PAMs into the CV in, just to kind of control the reverb by using the clock. The same pulse that I'm sending the trigger input to the BIA. So now you can shape it, add a little reverb, or if you just want to do that, it's just a dry kick. So let me start, I'll just stop right there before I continue and let you build on to the next kick. Cool.
Be sure and subscribe if you're into this kind of content. I'm trying really hard to hit 10,000 subscribers before the end of 2020. On this channel, I talk about everything from making music with Eurorack to making music with iPads. I talk about new gear, I talk about old gear, I talk about sound design and building live jams, all that good stuff. Be sure and subscribe. In this next example, I'm using the Blue Lantern module's Assist, and basically this is an envelope generator and kind of a kick drum maker for dummies. You can literally pair this up with any oscillator in your system and use it to make really amazing and fat, powerful kick drums. Today we're going to be patching it up with the Dreadbox Hysteria oscillator, and I'll be using a sine wave to generate the kick drum. Another bonus to doing it this way is that you can tune your kick drum to any octave or any note that you're particularly fond of. I'm going to switch over to direct sound and I'll show you guys some options of what we can do using the Assist module and any oscillator. Okay, let's go ahead and pass it back over to Trovarsi. What have you got for us next?
All right, I'm ready for my second kick here. Okay, so just a refresher, here's the first kick. It's a BIA, and we'll get to modulating the morph. But first, I have the output of the BIA, first of all, just backtracking into the second channel of this mixer. If you see here, I'm using a mult cable to split the output, and I'm sending the other output into the Kithruina, which is a distortion module, out of the Kithruina into the reverb by Make Noise, which is a fantastic reverb. And let me just let you hear that. So right away you can hear that it has like that nice distortion. You can pull the low end out, although probably wouldn't want to, but you can still use this to shape it, which I think is great. You can really drive it and kind of turn that up. And I'm going to add in the reverb that I have patched here. So really quick, I'll turn it back up so you can hear, but I have the pre-delay patched with a trigger from the Pamela's New Workout. Again, it's a similar, I'm using different outputs, but it's the same pulse, how I have it here. And I just wanted you to kind of see that. But basically, I'm using that to kind of give it that control. So it's adding that extra percussive element to the end of the kick. I like that. It's a lot of fun. If the more reverb you add, I find that it pulls a little more of the low end out. But remember, I still have this output that I patched earlier from the original kick. So essentially I can add some dry kick. So I can keep that low end even if I want to add a little bit more reverb here. Another fun thing to do is while that's happening, you can modulate. Well, I use an LFO here, this Batumi LFO, and I'm gonna input it into the morph and make it really dirty. take out the reverb altogether and just let you hear that. But I love this module. It's a lot of fun. It's very performable. I like the sliders. And yeah, you can control the LFO here. And you can even actually put a sync in and really pulse it. But I like to kind of let the LFO kind of do its thing. All right, Dean, I'm passing it back to you. Cool. Here you go.
For my last example today, I want to talk to you about clicks, kick drum clicks specifically. And what do I mean by that? What is a kick drum click? Well, basically, if you take a collection of kick drum samples and you run them through a high-pass filter and remove all of the low-frequency content below about 1000 hertz, what you've got is you're left with just a click, sort of a transient sound that if you layer with a kick drum and use the low end from the kick drum and the interesting high-frequency content from the kick click, you get a really nice emphasis on the transient of the kick drum. Now, what's a transient? What do I mean by that? I mean just the very, very first little snap, little pop of that sound. It'll help the actual sound come through the mix a little bit and not have to compete so much with some of the other elements in the mix, like your bass line and whatnot. I'm going to switch over to direct sound, and we're going to match up the befako kickall module with some kick clicks by loading them into the Tip Top 1 sample module. I've got a couple of hundred kick clicks on this card here, and we're just going to scroll through some of these and start matching them up with the tonality from the kick drum and the transient boost from these kick clicks. Check this out, you guys.
So for my third kick, I'm going to switch it up on you. I am using the Spectrum by WMD. It's a nice oscillator. I like to use it for a lot of bass lines, but let me kind of let you hear this first here. So how I have this patched is I'm going out of the sub oscillator. As you can see, it has various outputs here: sine, triangle, saw, sub, pulse, but I'm using the sub. I'm going into the MMF filter, out of the filter of the low pass and into the ring modulator by IO Instruments, out of IO Instruments and into the Electronisounds dual drive. Okay, so let me back up. So I have the oscillator here going into the filter. So I'm using the filter to shape the waves. So if I open up the filter all the way up, obviously we've just lost a kick. It's just like, so if I pull this the cutoff down, I'm now shaping it. So I'm using this as my envelope essentially. And then I'm going to add a little more ring to give it a little more distortion. I can add more resonance or pull it back. The key here is I'm using the trigger, and again, the same pulse, into the ping. And this is it's basically creating a quick decay envelope. So if I pull it out, it's just a running, oscillator, and I'm using the filter to kind of shape it. So I want to dial that in. Shape it. And now, if I want to even add more drive from the Erica Synths, I can really kind of turn that up and really get it in there. But yeah, I think this is just a fun way to create like a bunch of variations of a kick, like I just heard like a bunch of kicks by just using this patch. And maybe you don't want it with that much distortion. You can just kind of dial back the drive, turn up the gain. And you know what? You can even add the reverb that I have on the send and return channel here, if you like. If I had a delay, actually I could patch it, but maybe I want to get something crazy going. But I don't know, it's a great way to kind of get some various kicks out of just using a sub oscillator. All right, Dean, I think that's my last kick. I'll pass it back to you.
I just want to give a really big thanks to Trovarsi for doing this video with me. And until next time, thanks for watching.